Friends, before we dive into today's terrifying story, let me share something interesting with you. Almost 80% of the people who watch our videos enjoy them, but haven't subscribed yet. So, if you're one of those 80%, it'll just take a second. Hit that subscribe button below. If you think Halloween is just fun, candy, and costumes, you're wrong. Because sometimes, the things that walk among the trick-or-treaters aren't human. This is the story of Kyle, a boy who learned that the hard way. Eerie music fades in, children laughing, wind howling softly. Kyle was 8 years old, small, cheerful, and full of excitement for Halloween night. His family had just moved into a quiet neighborhood in Delaware a few weeks ago. The houses were decorated with glowing pumpkins, hanging skeletons, and fake cobwebs. Everything looked perfect for the night of ghosts. That evening, Kyle put on his vampire costume, grabbed his pumpkin candy bucket, and ran outside to meet his new friends. They had a simple plan: go door to door, fill their bags with sweets, and laugh all night. For hours, they ran through the glowing streets, knocking on every door they could. But as the night got later, one thing began to bother Kyle. He still hadn't found his favorite candy, red caramel chews. It was around 8 p.m. when Kyle decided to go home. His friends waved goodbye, disappearing into the orange fog of the streetlights. Kyle walked alone now, his small footsteps echoing in the cold night air. Then he saw her. Across the street, under a flickering streetlight, a woman was walking slowly, wearing a pink sweater and faded jeans. She looked like she was in her 50s, carrying a small paper bag filled with candies. And inside that bag, Kyle saw it, his favorite candy. He smiled and followed her, thinking maybe she'd share one. The woman turned down an empty street, one that looked strangely different. There were no decorations, no lights, no sound. The houses there were old and dark, as if the neighborhood had been forgotten. The woman stopped in front of a large, crumbling house. Its porch light flickered weakly, and a dead tree stood beside it, its branches swaying in the wind. From one of the branches hung a scarecrow, or at least, Kyle thought it was a scarecrow. The woman turned toward him and smiled faintly. "You want candy?" she asked, her voice soft but strange. Kyle nodded eagerly. She handed him his favorite red caramel and said, "There's more inside. Come in, sweetheart." Kyle hesitated, but the candy's sweetness melted his fear. He followed her in. The inside smelled of dust and old wood. There were cobwebs in the corners, and the air felt colder than outside. The woman disappeared into the kitchen, saying she'd bring more candy. Kyle sat down in the living room. Through the window, he could see that same tree and the scarecrow hanging from it. The wind made it sway slightly, like it was breathing. Then he blinked. The scarecrow's hand moved. Curious, Kyle stood and walked closer to the window. The closer he looked, the more wrong it seemed. The face wasn't made of cloth. It looked human. And then, he saw her face. It was the same woman. Her lifeless body hung from the tree, her mouth twisted, her eyes wide open. Kyle froze. His heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear the wind anymore. Then, a whisper came from behind him. "Did you like your candy, Kyle?" He turned. The woman was standing right there. But now, her skin was blue and pale. Her eyes were hollow, her tongue hanging from her mouth. The same face that was hanging from the tree. She smiled, her voice breaking like static. "I have more, just for you." Kyle screamed and ran for the door, but the door slammed shut on its own. Windows rattled. Lights flickered. The woman started laughing, a sharp, inhuman sound that filled the whole house. Kyle stumbled, tripped, and everything went black. When Kyle opened his eyes again, he was lying in a small bed, in a house he didn't recognize. His parents were sitting beside him, tears in their eyes. An old couple stood nearby, people Kyle had never seen before. The old woman spoke softly. "You're lucky, child. That spirit almost took you." Kyle frowned. "Spirit?" The old man nodded. "That woman you saw, she died here on Halloween night years ago. She hanged herself from that tree. People thought her body was a decoration. It stayed there for days." Kyle stared at them, shaking. The curtains in the room fluttered gently, and he realized they were the same curtains he'd seen from across the street. Since that night, Kyle never celebrated Halloween again, and the old house at the end of the block still stands there, silent, forgotten. But if you walk by on Halloween night, you might see a woman in a pink sweater, smiling at you from the shadows. So, if someone ever offers you candy after dark, don't take it. You never know who's really giving it to you.